So today I want to talk about three really crazy studies that will change the way you live your life forever. And it will also make weight loss way easier. So the first study I want to talk about, I think it took place in 1962, and it was a Japanese study. And it took a group of children with severe poison ivy allergies, and it did a test on them. And what they did was they sat down with each child, they took a poison ivy leaf, rubbed it on one forearm, and then they took a harmless regular leaf, rubbed it on the other. But they didn't tell the kids which one was which. They actually said the opposite. They said the poison ivy leaf was a harmless leaf, they're just testing on their skin. And then they said the harmless leaf was actually the poison ivy leaf. And can you guess what the results of the study were? It was crazy. So the forearm that they rubbed poison ivy on, the poison ivy that all the kids have a tested known allergy for, did not break out in a rash. Nothing happened on that forearm. But on the forearm where they were told the poison ivy was rubbed, but really it was just a regular leaf and they were kind of tricked, they actually broke out into a rash that they normally did when they were in contact with poison ivy. And so it is crazy because what this showed was the power of suggestion and the power of the mind. When the facts or the reality that you're presented with is greater than the reality you already know, you can literally change your reality, and things like this can happen. So that was the first study, which demonstrates literally the power of your mind. You thought this was poison ivy, so you thought yourself into an allergic reaction. Isn't that crazy? And you thought yourself out of an allergic reaction. So I thought that was mind-blowing. So if we can do that with a simple poison ivy, imagine how far we could actually take this. Now, another study was done a while later with a group of adults with asthma. And they had pretty severe asthma. And what they did was they sat each person down individually and they gave them an inhaler and they told them the inhaler had allergens in it. So it was going to bring on their asthma. So they all took the inhaler, and almost 50% of these adults started to go into some kind of asthma attack. And then while they were going through this asthma attack, the people running the study, they said, okay, here's our new medicine that we've created. This is going to get rid of it, get rid of all the symptoms. You're going to calm down, not have an asthma attack anymore. Try this. So they took an inhaler, right? But the first inhaler they took that they said had allergens in it was literally just water vapor. And then the second inhaler that they made them take that was literally supposed to be the medicine, that was also just water vapor. So they told the people they were going to take allergens, and guess what? They thought themselves into an asthma attack. And then when they gave them the second inhaler to cure the asthma, they also thought themselves out of the asthma attack because they believed so much that the inhaler actually had the medicine when really they both only had water vapor in it. Isn't that crazy? They literally not just mentally talked themselves out of it, but having such a strong mental belief allowed them to change their actual physiology, right? Because I'm not sure the exact physiology of asthma, but the airways shrink or they swell, right? The bronchioles and all that. And they actually were able to stop that from physically happening just from the power of suggestion, of thought, of the placebo effect. It is amazing. And now check out this last study. This is probably the most wild one of all. So they took this group of adults who just had their wisdom teeth out, and they were trying to help them with pain relief, right? If you ever had your wisdom teeth out, not very fun, right? So they were helping with pain relief, and they gave them this medicine. Now it was a fake medicine. It wasn't real. They told them it was morphine, I believe. And so I think the majority of these adults reported pain relief, right? So they have this pain from the wisdom tooth. They were given fake morphine, and then they had pain relief. But here's the wild thing about this study. What happened next? The people who were running the study, they really wanted to test what is going on in the mind to be able to have such, like why is the placebo effect so effective? And so what they did was they then gave these participants an anti-morphine drug. So the basically the way morphine works, I believe, is you inject the drug and then it binds to certain receptors that would stop pain from kind of perpetuating, right? So it bonds to receptors and then you don't feel pain. Now this anti-morphine drug, this is a real drug, it binds to those same receptors, so the morphine can't bind. So then it stops the effect of the morphine, therefore the pain would come back. So the researchers of the study, they gave these people the real anti-morphine drug, and what the participants reported was their symptoms came back of pain. But what's crazy is they weren't given any morphine in the first place for this anti-morphine drug to work, which is crazy. So what that showed the researchers was not only can you think yourself into pain relief, into controlling your asthma, into reducing your allergies, you can also physiologically produce a literal painkiller. So they produce their own morphine. So their body, they were told this is morphine. Their mind believed it and actually created their own version of morphine so that when they were given the anti-morphine drug, there was a drug there that they could block that they created themselves. So they actually were able to fabricate this painkiller themselves. So the brain is so powerful that it changes your thoughts, and just by changing your thoughts, your actual physiology can change. And this begs the question of what else can we change? If the power of the mind can change you physiologically, whatever that big word was, if it can do that, then holy smokes, we've got some untapped potential, some untapped miracles that can happen, right? And if you believe in the Marvel universe, the Marvel universe with all how there's like an infinite amount of realities happening at the same time. What if we have a ton of different realities all happening right now in this universe and with all different types of possibilities? And if you're unhappy with the one that you're currently in, what if it's not about changing your reality? What if it's about moving to the reality you want to be in? And what if that starts with the way that you think? And what if it starts with believing these new thoughts so powerfully that your cells begin to react accordingly, and your cells will kind of transport you into a new reality? Because imagine, don't think of I have to change my reality. That sounds like a lot of work, right? What if I just switched realities? And what if that switch starts in the mind? Isn't that crazy? Those studies blew my mind. And I'm not even doing them justice as like how powerful the placebo effect is and your mind is. So how does this relate to health, to weight loss? Well, it's pretty infinite about the applications of the placebo effect. There's been studies of people thinking themselves out of cancer, thinking themselves out of heart disease. It is crazy. Thinking themselves out of spinal injuries. And then their cells just follow their thoughts. But the key is to have such powerful belief and thoughts that it does affect your physiology, because the current beliefs that you have are the most powerful ones that created your cells, right? And your current physiology that created the current reality you're in, right? And if you're listening to this podcast, it means you always want personal growth. And so you want to improve your life in some way, to have a better life in some way. And so there's still room for growth, which means we need to harness the power of our thoughts. So how do we do that? Well, if you think about how did we get the current thoughts that we have? How do we have the beliefs that we had? Well, from our parents, our family, the news, our TV shows, magazines, newspapers. We are constantly bombarded, and our own personal thoughts, right? Continually perpetuating a certain belief. And so we are constantly bombarded with the same thoughts and beliefs and opinions and perspectives all the time. It is overwhelming. Millions of times in a day are we exposed to advertising, to opinions, and to our own thoughts. Millions of times in a day. It's wild. And so simply, if you need a new belief to switch realities, it needs to be stronger than the current ones that you have. And the simplest way to do that is, number one, know how powerful your brain is and know that you have the power to change things just by starting to think. But number two, knowing that you need to block out the beliefs, the opinions, the TV shows. You need to block out of it so you're being exposed less. And then all you do is play the volume game. The beliefs that you want, you must bombard yourself with those instead. Go and listen to the right podcasts, watch the right shows, and repeat the right affirmations, thoughts, processes, goals in your head. It's just a volume game, and you have to outbeat what you're constantly being bombarded with right now. So I hope that was extremely fascinating to you. It is changing my life, the placebo effect and the power of the mind, and I will be switching realities constantly as I go through the rest of my life. And I hope you will strive for that as well. And yeah, all you got to do is focus and ask yourself, what are the thoughts that would serve me? What are the thoughts that would take me into a new reality? And how can I outnumber those old thoughts with my new thoughts? Where can I constantly expose myself to the new stuff? And start implementing that today.